Hello everyone and welcome to Microsoft Purview and how to solve your data governance challenges with Microsoft Purview. So my name is Erwin de Kreuk. I'm a principal consultant and the lead for data AI team for InSpark, a Microsoft partner in the Netherlands. You can reach me on Twitter, you can reach me on LinkedIn, some contact details. I have my own website where I blog about Purview, about Synapse, about Data Factory. And if you want to have the slide deck afterwards, you can find it on my GitHub page. So then you can easily read it afterwards. So as InSpark, we help organizations accelerating their digital transformation with impactful Microsoft solutions and expertise. So we are a Microsoft-only company. Yes, we don't do Snowflake, we don't do other stuff. The only thing which we're not doing from Microsoft is Dynamics. Yeah, without the sponsors, no lunch, no party tonight. So say hello to them and shake their hands. And maybe you can win some great prizes as well. So for today, I've created a small agenda. So I will talk a little bit about the introduction to Microsoft Purview. How many people of you are using Microsoft Purview? How many people have heard about Microsoft Purview? Okay, cool. Okay, I know it's a pretty new product, so I really like the product. So I will do an introduction. I will explain a little bit of what data map is. I will explain something about all the apps which are available. And I will give you some takeaways and also some roadmap details, what's going to happen the next couple of 6 months with Microsoft Purview. So I think this is value for the most of the company. Data is your most strategic asset. So if we are talking about data in Purview, we are talking about assets. So a table, a file, a folder, whatever is an asset. And I think, yeah, we all know data is a new oxygen, data is a new oil. It's getting bigger, and we are receiving more and more data. So we need to get in control as well. So I think if you look to a couple of elements which are successful for data governance, is we get more data. So how can we get control on managing our growing data landscape, or data estate, we call it. You all know we have a finance department, they are building their reports. We have a sales department, they are building their reports. And they're all creating new silos with old data. But under the hood, we are still using the same data. So we need to get control of all these different silos as well. We need to increase our data agility. And of course, how many company or industry regulations do we have to be applied in every country? So we have to take care about that as well. So that's one of these four elements are going to make your data estate, data governance more successful. And if you look to products, you want to have a product which is working in the cloud, which is easy scalable, and you want to have the maximum business value of data for your data consumers. So within Purview, we're talking about data consumers, data producers, and of course our security officers, which needs to work in the same tool or same Azure data service. And of course, if we have that data estate scanned or whatever, we want to get some insights about our data estate. So which data is curated, which data is not curated, how many steps I run, and that, etc., etc. And hopefully, at the end of the session today, you will get some more information how you can do that with Microsoft Purview as well. So data operations, I think the role Chief Data Officer, Chief Data Analytics Officers are new roles, I think. How many people have heard about the Chief Data Officer? Do you have someone in your company who's responsible for data? That's good. Because in a lot of companies, when I do a presentation for Microsoft Purview, I ask, who's going to be responsible at the end of the day about your data? We haven't thought about it. Yeah, but if you don't have someone who's responsible, I don't think that you need to start with Microsoft Purview. First, you need to get someone who's responsible, and then you will need to start with Microsoft Purview. A tool will not solve your problems. A tool will help you to solve your problems. So, and that Chief Data Officer, he has some questions. Can I trust my data? Are they certified data sets? Where's the data coming from? So data lineage is very important. But also, what kind of data do I have? People are just uploading some files. Is there social security numbers in there, or are there credit card numbers in there? You don't know, because someone is just uploading a file. But also compliance is very important, but also how do I control the access and the use of the data? So Microsoft Purview can help you to control your access. So what I already said, I'm not going to read everything, you can read it afterwards, but very important, what you currently see, we have some files stored on the SharePoint where we have some documentation about our SQL servers. We have another document system where we store stuff, and it's all about our company. So there is no central location where we can register our data sources. So how cool will it be that I have one place where I can see all the data sources in my data estate? And the next thing is, if I want to produce the data, I want to find easily, trying to find my documentation. Who's writing documentation about every data source? Who's doing that? Only one? Nobody's writing the... You can use ChatGPT to write your documentation, you know that, huh? So, but creating and maintaining on the same place is very important as well. That's why you need someone who is responsible for your data. And of course, our CISO, the security administrator, he has all the troubles from the producer and the consumer, but he has a lot more. And I already said, how can I find these credit card numbers? How can I find the sensitivity labels? Because you can also apply, if you have an E5 license, sensitivity labels to your data so that you can easily see, okay, this data set is an internal data set, or this data set is an external data set. How many of you are using already sensitivity labels in Power BI or SQL Server? Only a couple. Are you using it in Office 365? Woo. So in Office 365 you have also the labels internal, confidential, external, and that you cannot share if you have internal documents that you cannot share it with external people. But also constantly monitor all the data source for the content. So you need to scan automatically, not by hand, but automatically. And hopefully Microsoft Purview will help you with that. If you look to the history of Microsoft Purview, and yes, it started with Data Catalog Gen 1. Someone used that? No. Data Catalog Gen 2? I see some people, yes. But actually, the base of this data governance is the acquisition in 2019 with Blue Talon, what Microsoft did. Then they started to do a lot of private previews, because I think I started with Purview 3.5 years ago already, in the first private previews. So then they called it Azure Purview. And now they changed it last year to Microsoft Purview. And one of the reasons behind that is Purview is not only doing Azure. Purview is doing more than only Azure. We can also scan Amazon or AWS, Google, BigQuery, and that kind of stuff. And if you look what happened, I think they also merged the risk and compliance part from the Microsoft 365 into Purview. So we had a discussion in our company as well. My compliance consultant said, yeah, I work with Microsoft Purview. Yeah, I work with Microsoft Purview. My focus is mainly on the data governance, and his focus is more on the risk and compliance. So what did Microsoft do? They just renamed all the other compliance stuff to other products, and then they introduced, of course, the data governance portal. So the great thing is, if we do a session together with my colleague, we can switch around all the things. There's only one word we use in common, is Purview. But more the compliance count and the risk side is the yellow part, and I'm not going to talk about that one today. I'm going to talk about Microsoft Purview. So Microsoft Purview is getting a more central part within the data products. And what happened with Microsoft as well, Purview was originally at the data side and moved now to the security side. A little bit strange, the data governance moving to security, but they will pick up the product from the security part within Microsoft. But then you will see that to manage your risk, identify your data landscape, more and more things are coming. It's still a really young product. If you look to Microsoft Purview, how many people have seen this picture before? Maybe in different colors, but this is actually what Microsoft Purview is. We have the platform. So We have a platform as a service, which is being deployed automatically, where we can automate and manage our metadata scale, and we can do all the scanning classifications. Because Purview, there's one thing you need to do: register your data sources and scan your data. Because if you don't scan your data, you will not find all this sensitive data. And then we have the apps, and you will see that the apps are more focused on data producers and consumers, or more on the data officers. So we have the use management and the data insights for the data officers, and the data catalog and the data sharing more for the producers and consumers. And then we can scan a lot of different data sources, on-prem, Azure, but also different clouds, and of course all the normal default Azure products, but also Power BI and Microsoft 365. And if that is not enough, we have also the open APIs with Apache Atlas 2.2, where you can easily connect with API calls to create your own things as well. So I know it's a lot of data. There's a lot of things on the screens. I will break down, and we will start to explain what a data map is, and then we will continue to explain what every app is today. So if you have questions, don't worry, you can ask them directly, so make it interactive, yes? So before we start, we have also, like Synapse, we have a studio. Now we have the Purview studio, Data Factory has a studio, we have all studios. And they all have the same color. So that's really visible, and they have the same left bars with all the activities. They have the same things on the top of the screen, so like updates, the accounts. You can also easily switch between accounts. That button is still there. My advice is never use 2 Purview accounts. Only use 1 Purview account in your whole environment. Why should I have 2 different accounts, set up 2 different scans in 2 different environments? Why? It's still your data estate. Is that development, test, or acceptance, or production? It's still the same data estate. Notifications, so what are you doing? Are you starting a scan? You created a new scan? Did you register a new data source? Feedback, very important for all the product managers. Leave feedback there, and every feedback will be taken care of. And then we have some metrics that you can directly see, okay, how many sources are already connected to my data estate, how many data assets are scanned, and how many glossary terms did I define. So what is a glossary term? Glossary term is a kind of a business definition which you can assign to a table, to a column, or even to a database. So that's more the documentation part. And then we can also easily search. So if you want to search for data, you need a search bar as well. So if I want to type in, I want to know all my assets within my data estate, which are with customer or with address or with cities or with whatever kind of data, you can easily search over there. And then, of course, like in all the other products, what I did for the last thing, that recently accessed entities. So if you look to that studio, I already said on the left bar, yeah, I've put it on the right bar, but the right side. But on the left side in the Purview studio, we have the data catalog where we can easily search and manage our glossary terms. We have the data map where we can start creating collections, and I will go in a little bit deeper what collections are in one of the next slides, where we can set up scans, where we can set up integration runtimes, because if we need to connect to on-premises systems, so how many people are using Synapse or Data Factory with integration runtimes to connect to on-premise sources? So a couple. That's just the same integration runtime, but it cannot be run on the same virtual machine. It needs to be a separate virtual machine. Did someone heard about Azure data sharing? It's currently a separate product, but it's now also integrated within Microsoft Purview. And I will explain it a little bit. What you can do with Azure Data Share is easily, almost real-time, share data from your blob storage to another blob storage, or even to another organization. So if you have a supplier who wants to have data, who needs data from you, you can easily share it across 2 different subscriptions with 2 different tenants as well. And of course, reporting is very important, and data policies I will explain a little bit later. So that's the access policies. And then, of course, a lot of stuff, metadata management, workflows, and private endpoints. Yes, we can deny all the endpoints. We can make it secure. and it needs to be connected to private endpoints as well. And we can connect Azure Data Factory and Synapse as well. So let's dive into a little bit what is a data map. The data map is actually the foundation of your Microsoft Purview account. So that's really the foundation. So if you build a house, that's your fundament. You will get a graph, but what will describe all your data assets. So we can easily register sources over there, and we can also, can you see it? Yeah. But also the collections. And this is kind of a hierarchy which you can define. And on every collection, you can later on, you can define security groups. Okay, this person or this group of people is allowed to see all the data sources belonging to that part of the collection. Yeah, so these are the collections, and we can connect the different sources below. And then currently we have about, I think, 39 or 40 different data sources which we can connect. And as you can see, SAP, there are a lot of other vendors in there as well, except besides Azure. The next step is, once we have registered a data source, then we know the data source is there, and I want to know what kind of data is in there. No, we're not talking about data, we're talking about metadata. So there is no actual data you can see within Microsoft Purview. And a scan, we can do that. You can create by folders, you can select whatever you want to scan. I don't think you need to scan your temp folders, but mostly if you have raw, intermediate, so the bronze, the silver layers, you want to scan the data, and we can scan the data full or incremental. I'm Dutch, I like to do incremental scans, it's cheaper. Yeah? So, and if you have, for example, a SQL Server as an ERP system, how many times a year is your ERP system changing? Do you need to scan every week? Do you need to scan every month? Or I only want to scan manually when there are changes done in the tables. So once I have the metadata once in my system, the system is not changing that much. So take care about how you set up your scans. Your data lake, you should scan every day, because a lot of people can upload data to there, extract data to there, they build new data in there. The next step is, once we have done that scan, we can automatically assign classifications. And what is a classification? It's really light, the screen, hopefully you can see it a little bit. But classification can be a credit card number, a driving license. I think there are about 220 different classifications which can automatically be applied. So there is an AI model behind there which can automatically apply that classification. So in this case, we have the world cities over here, that the city name is automatically classified with that classification. Yes, you can also assign manual classifications, and you can also build your own classification. So if you have in your country, for example, I don't know, a license plate, which is in every country different, you can set up your own classification to scan that data as well. And then you can see passport numbers, text file numbers. And these are mostly the same classifications you can find as well in your Microsoft 365 compliancy. So far so good. Any questions?
Yeah, so I just try to get this right. So you talk about classifications, but basically you have to recognize, oh yeah, this pattern here is behind this place, this pattern is the password number. Is that what you say?
Yeah. Yeah, so there, if you can do, if you make this, so there are classifications behind them, so there are patterns behind that to recognize that, or to recognize. You can even say, okay, if you have a data warehouse, for example, and you have audit columns, and all the audit columns are starting with the same kind of prefix, you can make your own custom classifications. Okay, these are the audit columns. Don't care about it or whatever, but you can define a classification by yourself on it, or even manual as well. But mostly, the best way is to do it automatically.
So it scans the metadata only, not the data itself, right? So if I have a database with, I don't know, 200 tables with millions of rows, it will not take forever. It just scans the.
Yeah, the first time it will scan the data in, because if I have a city name, I need to know if the data in there is actually a city name, of course. But if it has found one time the city name, then it will stop automatically in the background, and it will go, because then there's a classification assigned to it.
But it can kill the production, right?
Yeah, what you are saying, it's right, because I need read writes, I need write with writes on the database to scan the data the first time as well, yeah. Yeah, so don't do it during busy hours. That's why you can set up your scan based on your needs and when you want to do it. So the next step is data catalog. And the data catalog is actually, yeah, our search base or our metadata assets all in there. So what we can do, we can easily, we have a semantic search and browse. And if you connect this to Synapse or to Data Factory, you have the same functionality there as well. So that you can connect easily in Synapse directly to Purview as well. You can look up to all the business glossaries, but also define some workflows for self-service. So I will add a new business glossary term, and you can approve it, or whatever, you will get an email, please approve this. So you have always the 4I concept if you create some new documentation or some new glossary terms. And of course we have some lineage. I'm not going to say this is working. But it's getting better and better. So I will show you in a demo a little bit later on how we almost can get it 95%. But the main thing is if you use the correct components, then you get the lineage from your source to your destination, and then you need to do something, and then you have Power BI. Because the combination to Power BI is a little bit gone, but I will show you how you can fix that. So what I already said, we have custom or manual lineage. So if you see in the top, this is a setup of a manual lineage, so I can connect myself to whatever source. And then if you use Synapse and you're using the data flows or the copy activities, then you can push the lineage from your Synapse environment or Data Factory environment to Purview. And then you get what is happening over there. And then if you use Databricks, there's also to get your lineage out of your Databricks with some special things. And then what I already said, you have some custom lineage, and that's the Apache Atlas API. If you have a framework, you are using a framework at your company. If you have a framework, you can define the entity types, and you can connect these entity types together with that custom lineage. That's, yeah, you can also build your own metadata or metadata lineage framework to get that working. So there are a lot of things happening which you can do. So the next thing is, so we talked about the data estate, the data catalog. The next thing is the reporting. And the reporting is actually pretty simple. What will happen in, I think, 4 or 5 months, that you can also embed Power BI in it, so that you can start building the reports with Power BI for Purview. So that's a great advantage to have that. So yeah, and this is more the reports for the data stewards to see, okay, how many data is curated, how are my scans running, how many classifications do I have, what kind of sensitivity labels are living within my data estate, and how many glossary terms are assigned to my table or to my columns. Yeah, this is one of my favorite. I did a whole private preview, so I'm pretty proud of it, what it finally went there. So access control. So what we can define in here, this is also called as data use management. And there are 3 different options with the data use management. We can design a data owner. So that means that I can have a folder within my data lake, and I say, okay, this group of people are allowed to use this data. The DevOps is more for the DBAer, so I can directly say, okay, this database, you need to do performance tuning, or you need to have access rights to do the performance tuning or to do the auditing on these tables. So that DBAer will only see the main data, so and not your custom, or the main metadata, and not your custom data as well. And we have self-service as well. So what you can do with self-service, I will explain it a little bit more in detail in the next slides. People can go to Microsoft Purview. So I'm a consumer, I want to use data, I'm going to Synapse, so I need the customer table. I can do request access, someone else can approve it, or you can say, okay, I will automatically approve that for a certain period. So if you have working students working and they need access to your data, you say you are allowed to use the data, but you have to request, and then automatically the request will be revoked after 1 week or 1 month or half a year, whatever. But that's automatically processed. So we have a single class of entities in a non-production environment, or not in a single class. How do you say that? It's disconnected from all your applications. So you can assign to a lot of the resources. You can assign this access control. I already explained a little bit, data owner policies, they are currently still in preview, but what you can set, you can create your own policy. So what is happening in the background, I can say, okay, I will allow read and modify rights on a certain data source or on a certain asset to a certain resource group as well, and then I can, so if I've done that, sorry, I went too far. If you have done that, you can say, okay, you get access to that part with read or write. And that's working pretty awesome. If you go to a SQL database and you need to build a report, I can give you rights on the fact schema or the dimension schema automatically because you don't need write access. So I have one place where all the access control is done. So no create user from external provider, whatever, DB reader roles, or even on the data lakes, I don't need to do any ACLs or whatever, or RBAC roles. It's replacing everything. DevOps policies can be done on subscription level, resource group level, Azure SQL database, still in preview but it's working, and Azure Arc enabled SQL servers, and then we have 2 options, the performance monitoring or the security monitoring. I'm not gonna talk a little bit. And then the part what I just explained, that self-service access request. We can do a data access request in Purview, and there's a whole, looks like a logic app. There's a whole logic app behind there, and you can even extend more parts in there. You can assign email addresses or even other workflows, and you can also integrate this kind of workflows within one of your default processes. So there's a HTTP connector as well available to add that to your systems. And I like the expiration functionality. That's, I think, just there for like 6 weeks, and that you can say, okay, expire after 1 month, because people are why should I give everyone access to my data? Just do a request and you will get access for a month or for a week. And there's an approval process as well. I will get an email, or the person who's assigned the data steward get an email. Okay, is it okay or not? And then you get an approval, and then the other person gets the correct rights in the system. I'm not going to talk about workflows. This is the part what I just explained about. Okay, I can create a new business term or business glossary term, and someone needs to approve that. Or if I update the business logic to a term, you can do that. But you can also update asset attributes. So an asset is one of the metadata types. You can update that one, and then there's an approval process that not everybody is changing your whole data estate of metadata. And the great thing is that with that workflows, you can even create your own hierarchical stuff. So if you have workflow scopes for sales, finance, and HR, for example, you can create separate processes for each department with their own business glossary terms as well. How many people are already using business glossary terms on an other way than Purview in their company? Yeah, I thought nobody was writing documentation, so how are you going to explain to your end users the sales amount? You have to write it down somewhere, or not? Or nobody's writing it down, what the definition is of the sales amount? No? Ooh. Data sharing, the last one. Already explained, So what can happen? You can collaborate with external business partners. So what I already said, you have another vendor who needs data from your side. You can do that easily, and you can also do, who's using Azure Data Explorer? Yeah, if you use Azure Data Explorer, you can easily sync one of your databases automatically to another environment, and then it can. So what in a normal way, if you can do that near real time, syncing your Gusto database to another organization, then you have a kind of a read-write process over here, and then you have a read process over there. Then you can build your reports on the other database. And between, of course, different departments within the organization. And if you see that in the lineage, then you will also, in Purview, you will see the different lineage which are executed. So I'm sharing the March folder, and it's connected to my Azure Active Directory tenant as well. So let's do something about the demo. So first of all, let me show you how Microsoft Purview, what you need to do if you create a new Microsoft Purview account. So if I create a new account, can everybody see it? So if I need to zoom, please let me know. So what will happen, you have to define a subscription, of course. You need to define a resource group where you can add your Purview account. You need to define, of course, your name. So SQL Day, Poland. The location, because that's very important. The only thing what is happening with your location, that the metadata is stored in West Europe. So if 80% of your sources are stored in West Europe, my advice is create your account as well in West Europe, because otherwise you get also egress and ingress over the data lines. There's also a managed resource group involved with that. That's more for the Apples API. That's the same with happening with Databricks or with Synapse. What I already said, I can decline all the networks, that everything should be built with private endpoints, and I can choose between account, portal, and ingestion, and then I need to create all the private endpoints there as well. Normally, you're not creating this kind of stuff manually. You should use infra as code as well to deploy your Purview account. And you have some configuration stuff which you can add. So once we have done that, we have an environment, and you will directly see in the environment, I can directly go to the documentation, I can open a portal, I can manage some users, but you will also see some capacity unit stuff, and I'll explain later on how the pricing is working, but this is more an overview, and you can also see that how much data you have stored, and in this case you can see I'm using like 29 MB of metadata, and that's really different than normal data as well. So I'm only storing the metadata there, and I can do some networking. So let's open the portal. So I saw some hands who are using Microsoft Purview. I think you. What are you using in Purview currently?
Well, we did a POC like a year ago and set some functions. So now I wanted to see what are new. So it was very easy.
Yeah, so a lot of has been changed the last year, and a lot is going to change the next 6 months. But that's the last slide, yeah. So stay until the end. I will definitely tell you the roadmap. There are some Microsoft people here, but it's all. So on the left side, we have the activities. What I already said. So the data catalog, and in here I can easily start searching. So if I want to search for all my assets with address, I can just type in address, and then you will directly see all the different assets which are happening within the system. So you can see that I have an address over here, that the data set is certified. But you can also see that I have a Synapse serverless SQL view, a database, etc., etc. And some of the new things, what is happening, you saw the rating. This is just released last month, I think. You can now rate the data set, and then you can collaborate with your co-workers within the data set, okay, this is cool or not, I miss these things over here or I miss that. And you can also add some new tagging. So that's also the new things you haven't seen a year ago, because this is only released like 2 weeks ago. And then you can say, okay, you can add a tag based on your needs. So you can say, okay, SQL day, for example. And then you can later on, you can also start searching for these tags with the options on it. So the next thing is that we have the data map, and I'm trying to zoom a little bit. So there are different ways with a data map. I already said this is kind of a hierarchy definition. So people can have access to this bronze layer, the bronze part collection, but cannot have access for silver. So in this kind of collections, I can define I can define role assignments. I can say, okay, deny, or you can only read, or you can curate the data. So there are a lot of options in here to assign the different roles. Because you can imagine if you have a data estate with like 200 servers, and there are some finance databases there as well, you don't want to give everybody access to the finance data collection. So then you can say, okay, even if you are an admin in West Europe, for example, I can say, okay, in the gold layer, because there's a lot of data there, I can say, okay, restrict inherit permissions, and then I can assign the finance manager on that role as well. So it's a little bit playing around with these things. The monitoring, that's more for like, how did all your scans were working, how many failed scans do I have, you can define the classifications over here, and you can also define custom classifications based on your needs. So
I was thinking about giving rights. Is that the right on the storage account is given from our Purview? You give HCL or role-based?
So I will show you in a minute. So this is more if you start searching for data, can I find the data based on this? So that's the collection. If you want to have access rights, you need to use the data policy, but I will show you in a couple of seconds. And you can also define a complete your own business model. I'm not going to go deep dive in that one because that's another hour of a session. But the classifications, the shares, I already explained for data sharing. You can define pattern rules, so that means we want to optimize our data estate. So if you want to, if you have a kind of a pattern within your blob storage, you can say, okay, this is always the same pattern, and all the files belonging to that pattern you should handle as one. Yeah, and that's the same. What I will show you later on. They call it like resource sets. So if you have who's using a data lake with Delta Lake in there. So if you use Delta Lake, you have a lot of files, and you only want to have the metadata of one of these files, and not from all the files, because they are still the same. They call it a resource set. They belong together. Then we have the reporting part, which I already explained, and then you can directly see, okay, how many assets you have, how many data is curated. So this is more the overview for the chief data officer or for the data stewards to start working and to start optimizing their data governance environment as well. And then if you go to data policies, this is the part what I just what you are referring to. So I can create a new policy. I can say, okay, this is a policy. I will allow read access on, for example, a data lake. And on which data lake? On this is my default data lake. Continue, and then I can say, okay, this folder you're allowed to see. And this is replacing all the RBOC or ACL definitions on top of your data lake. And this is working really, really, really awesome. Like in 2 or 3 minutes, I think the ACL is there. Both. Yeah, but yeah, why should you maintain ACLs if you don't need it? So yeah, so I think you need to start, if you start using Microsoft Purview and you're really happy with it and you have everything set up, then you should start removing the ACLs to see if you get everything working within your policy environment. And then you have one environment where you can define everything for your SQL databases, SQL servers, data lakes, and in one overview. Because now if if you have to assign read access to a SQL database, a data lake, and something else, yeah, you need to create 3 tickets in the system to get that all working. So, and then you can, okay, what I said, I will finalize it, let's say that, and then continue. And then I say, okay, you are allowed to see everything in the intermediate folder, and you can still say, okay, some folders yes, some folders not. I can say add, and then I have to call it SQL day, SQL day, and then a new policy. I can save it. Subject field is empty. Oh, subject field is empty. Oh, sorry. I have to assign a group or a group of persons, of course. So what I can do over here, I can say, okay, I will get my security group, and I will have that all my data engineers in development should have access. I can save that one, and the only thing what I need to do now is to go back to that SQL day and say, okay, you have to publish the correct policy to the correct data lake. So the policy will, if I click on publish, this policy will apply automatically directly to my data lake. And if you apply that to SQL Server, there are some tables available in SQL Server to see what kind of policies are applied there as well. So self-service, DevOps, and management. So what I want to show you more is, I already said, okay, we have lineage. Yeah, so I have a great file. I do also sessions together with one of my other data platform MVPs, and he has a file created in his environment. So this is a Mark his Power BI environment. So you can scan Power BI, but you can also scan other Power BI tenants. So this is a cross-tenant sharing. I'm looking for a grep file, and the grep file. Why are we using a grep file? That was really doing the things we needed to do. So as you can see, I have a certified label on top of that one. You will see allowed to be shared external. If I click grep on the grep file, I can directly see, okay, I have some attributes. You can maybe see some properties. I have a schema. So you will directly see in here everything what is happening in Power BI, even including, so if I click on the number of customers, you will directly also see that the expression is there. There are some things you need to do to set up within your Power BI tenant. So I have a report. I will zoom in a little bit. I have a report. The grep file is based on a Power BI dataset. That Power BI dataset has all different tables, as you can see over here. And now I did some tricks as well in here. I did add, how do you call it, a manual lineage to connect all these tables. So now I know directly, okay, I have that grep file that's going to a SQL database, because that's my endpoint in Power BI. It's coming from data lake. It's loaded from a raw folder in the data lake. As you can see raw. There's a process in between where I do some with Databricks, and then the address. So now I can see directly from my report almost back to the source where my data is coming from. So there are a lot of things that you can organize in there.
And so the data lineage can be pulled automatically from things that are in Azure, right? So how you show the Power BI.
Yeah, so there are a couple of things happening with lineage. If you connect your Synapse Analytics environment or your Azure Data Factory environment, you can connect that in Purview. So if I can show you quickly. We have some time left. I'm not ready, but when you're in here, every copy activity or every mapping data flow activity will send automatically the lineage to my Purview account. So in here, in your Synapse environment, you need to connect your Purview account, and you will see that the data lineage is extracted. But if I go too more in detail, then a lot of people will be lost. So the only thing what I want to show you quickly, so I can also find it by source type, and now you will see that all these different pipelines which I've created are there. So I can click on a pipeline, this is another pipeline, and hopefully I have some Linux. And as you can see, I really have a lot of Linux available. Yeah, I know that this is working because this is one of my other sessions in there, but now you can see also the whole mapping data flow, the whole configuration, the transformation in there as well. So I'm going back to the presentation. So pricing is one of my favorite subjects. And why I'm always talking about pricing, because I think when you started, everybody said, it's really expensive. It can be really expensive. Yeah, that's true. So I will explain it a little bit how that works. We have, it's a PaaS service, so it's a platform as a service, and by default, it's deployed with one capacity unit. If you want to play with it, and you don't store more than 5 MB of metadata, it's for free. So they have a free option, but that's a little tricky thing. So what is happening, when I do a scan, it is elastic data map. So that means if I do a scan, it will scale up, and then it will scale down, because I need more consumption, and then it will go down. This is what you see happening in this diagram as well. So one capacity unit supports a request of 25 data map operations per second, and then you will see in here that that you have one map with 25 operations and 10 gigabyte of data, and that will go up, go up. So it will go down, you pay less. If you have more than 10 gigabyte of metadata, you will by default, your starting point will by default 2 capacity units, and more data, and then you will have the different billing as well. So if you compare that back to, this is the peak, and then you will pay that peak a moment, you will pay about 37 cents per capacity unit hour. The great thing is, you know that Microsoft did an increase of his prices last April with 11%. That dollar is really good for us because the euro went down. So actually Microsoft Purview went a little bit, instead of 11% more, it went, I think, 3 or 4% cheaper because of the dollar changed rate. So, and then we have some stuff to do. So we have some scanning. Power BI is still for free, SQL Server for free, and if you scan other data sources, you will pay like about 60 euro cents per vCore hour. And how many vCores the system is using, I haven't found it out. So I'm just playing around based on my experience with some customers, what you actually should, what it will cost you. So I already explained a little bit that the aggregation, the resource set, so to aggregate all these data lake files, or if you're using a data lake with year, month, day, etc., until the hour that you only will have one file to see there, that will cost you about 20 euro cents, and then also the reporting. But both features can be switched on or switched off. So this is not by default enabled. If you don't want to use the reporting, you can switch it off. Or if you only want to refresh the reports every week or every month, because then you do new scans, you can change that as well to based on your needs. The catalog, so that's everything about searching data, about glossary terms, about all the Linux visualizations which I just showed you. They are included, and the policies, I think they're going to change the prices for the self-service data access next month, I think, or no, after the 30th of June. They are going to change that. The pricing, the reporting, you'll have to pay a little bit for. And there is the DevOps policies, because they are GA now. And if something is GA, then you need to pay. Data sharing still in preview, so it's still free. If you want to try it out, data sharing, it's not going to work in your West Europe region. Only in UK South, if you want to be in, because it's still in the preview phase. But this is the most important thing. So if you look to a monthly consumption for Microsoft Purview, I think on average we'll use 1.5 CPU, or capacity unit is about 445 euros. And then the data map population, so that's the scanning, and that's based on your needs as well. So in this case, I took a scan every week, which took 4 hours, about 32 free cores. And of course, we have the data map enrichment with the resource set and reporting stuff as well. So about €865 a month. Is that expensive?
Not really. Like I can tell you that like one of the most established data catalogs, Colibra, $120,000.
Starting point.
Yes.
Yeah. Starting point, huh? Yeah. So comparing to other products, because that's the question we get as well, like a Prophecy or Clued-in or Colibra. Yeah, Colibra is still cheap, but with a license for €120,000 a year, a license. So this is pay as you go. If you want to stop with it, you just delete it and you're gone. But like a Prophecy will cost you about $500,000 a year, and then you still need to do the whole implementation. So you need to take care of what are your needs and what do you want to solve with it. So that's very important. Yes, of course, Prophecy or Colibra, they started as a company, as a data governance company. So they have a really different approach. And I think what Microsoft is trying to involve is a much more broader approach to get that data governance running. So what's coming in next, I will give you some takeaways. So what is happening currently, you need to deploy your Purview account to a subscription. In September, they will change that. So if you have already your Purview account running in a subscription, it will automatically be moved from your subscription to tenant level. And what does that mean? That you only can set up one Purview account for your tenant. One of the problems we are facing currently is that, okay, there's a new source. How can I add a new source? How do I know that there is a new source? So that all these sources will automatically be added directly to your Purview account. Automatically, that doesn't mean that you can start using them for data governance, because then you still have to do some scans and that kind of stuff, but not all your databases or all your data lakes needs to be added. So then you can create a collection and say, okay, this is temporary out of scope, and then when it is done, you can move it to the correct collection. What will happen more currently, and you were talking about it as well, I need to go to the database and to request the data, the metadata, to get it back. They will start changing that the data source will automatically start pushing the new metadata. So based on if something is changing in the database, they will automatically push it to Purview. So yeah, a lot of manual work which we currently are doing, they will change it. So the tagging already showed you. And already explained to you that we get more reporting with Power BI embedded, that we can also integrate it in our own portals or in a SharePoint environment, or even in a website, that we can see what is happening there, and that you maybe can use the data catalog to start building your frameworks or that kind of stuff. And of course, currently Databricks is supported, and they are working on to support the Unity catalog as well in Databricks. It's somewhere in a preview, but I don't know where. What is coming more? Data quality, very important. It's running in some customer environments currently, and data privacy is also coming this next 6 months. Very important, what I didn't say in the beginning, is that these collections, so the hierarchy, so if you start with Microsoft Purview, start thinking about that hierarchy, because currently changing a source from one collection to another collection can only be done through an API and not by hand. So take care of that one. And there's a really great checklist to start with Microsoft Purview within your company. Can I tell you more? No, I have only one thing left. If there are any questions. For everybody here, May 23, Microsoft Build, starting at 5 o'clock, the keynotes, definitely should watch it, because a lot of things are going to happen in the data governance data world. So if there are any questions left, I'm happy to answer them. And if not, don't forget to leave feedback. As a speaker, we need feedback to improve our sessions. So you have the Wova app, you can leave the feedback, the good ones, the bad ones, but also If I can do something better, please let me know.
Applying our own skills, lineages. You mentioned there is the possibility to add your own lineage to Purview.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Is there
Okay, so I will share my slides, and in the slides there's a link to Pi Apache Atlas, and there's also documentation in there, and then you can start. And then there's also some examples that you can start deploying that, and then how to use that. But you need some Python or PySpark experience with that. And if not, send me a message, and I can send you some sample code as well. Yeah?
we have lots of that.
Okay, so that's no problem.
You mentioned it's quite a new product, right? So how do your clients approach it? The idea of using Purview, enabling data governance with this product?
Yeah, so I have a couple of customers running with it, so it's still a new product. So and the first customer, they had Data Factory, SQL databases, and then calling stored procedures. Stored procedures calling from Data Factory is not supported yet. So he was doing all the Linux manually because the customer said, "That's a great thing, huh? What you mostly hear is that we want to have Linux, we want to have Linux." And when it is implemented, nobody looks at it anymore because then, oh, that's just there, so it's there. And that's so Linux is really difficult to implement. That's why I said, okay, use a framework or whatever to get that Linux manually or automatically integrated in there. And most of the larger companies, they are really struggling. They are starting with the data catalog. They are starting to assign them to business glossary, so it's really simple. And then the policies, the data policies, to assign the correct rights to the correct security groups, to the correct folders in the data lake. That's what that make their life easier, instead of doing all the ACL on development, on test, on acceptance and production. So I can say, okay, this group of persons needs access to that database, to that data lake folders, to that environment.
Question on data policy.
It's time? Okay, so I will do it.
What are the biggest benefits of using Microsoft Purview to scan Power BI tenants in comparison to using PowerShell for Power BI? Do you recommend it, Microsoft Purview for Power BI admin?
So, did everybody hear the question? So, shall I use Microsoft Purview to scan my data, or should I use the Power BI APIs or the PowerShell modules within Power BI? So the great thing is, I do have a session with a Power BI data platform MVP, and we are talking about it then as well. So you can build your own solution. So that's correct with PowerShell or with the APIs. You can build your own solution if that will be enough. But if you want to, that's more for Power BI. But if you want to scan also all your SQL databases, data lakes, and that kind of stuff, then yeah, I will advise Purview. But yes, the Power BI API scanner is almost the same thing what Microsoft Purview is doing, because we are using the Purview is using the same APIs in the background to do the same stuff. So if you can do it manually and that's enough for you, then I will advise use the API because that's much cheaper.
Question on data policy. Is there anything on the roadmap regarding other resources, for example, Databricks?
For Databricks, there is nothing currently on the roadmap, because it's a third-party provider, and the problem is not that Microsoft Purview or Microsoft doesn't want to do it. It's that more the Databricks part, they need to open some stuff at their side, and they don't want to do that. So that is a good question.
Is it possible to split all the configuration with and storage repositories?
Is it possible, so to repeat the question for online, is it possible to script all the stuff you did and to store it in a repository? Yes. So what I explained to you in the beginning, we have the Atlas API. So actually, yes, you can extract everything with the Atlas API, store it in JSON code, and then you have to write something to get it back. But you can do, and all the business glossary terms you can import and export. So you get a CSV file with all the business glossary terms. So if you want to get rid of your Purview environment, but you want to save all your business definitions, you can export them to CSV files.
Right, but not install.
There's no Git integration. No, there's no Git integration yet. Hmm? No, not what I heard. So this is so what they had defined a schedule till September, and this was for September. So currently, it's not that, like, if you look to Power BI or Synapse, that's a really large team, and if you look to Purview, it's comparing to the other products, it's a pretty small team. Sorry, but yes, everything is possible. So, but you need some tricks to do it. No, so hopefully I can find it quickly. Yeah, there's what I explained in the beginning. We have the Atlas API, so and then you can connect there. So Atlas is an open standard where you connect to. So there are more data governance systems using Atlas. You can connect there, and then you can define the type definitions. You can define all the processes. You can define the classification. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can, if you build one script and you want to add the manual classifications, or there's even, I think, if you find it somewhere in the Microsoft sites, an Excel sheet where you can define all the classifications, and then there's a library which you can upload it as well for all the type definitions. So there are a lot of things you can do with the PySpark Atlas. So one of the slides, I think, was there with the manual lineage. So if you download it, go to that site and use it to build your own custom solution. This slide's, oh, so this one. Oh, sorry. So the open APIs. Can you see it? Yes? I think, yeah, I'm on time. You have 1 minute less break, okay? Thank you very much for being here.